Welcome to
Introverts, Own Your Voice. I'm Tom Marcoux.
And I'm Johanna McLeod.
This episode, we're talking about the power of fearless versus self-doubt.
Tom, what do you mean by fearless? I mean, that's kind of hard to be fearless. I mean, there's fear everywhere.
I'm with you. There's a lot that bothers us. There's a lot of pain and imposition of forces on people. Economic, war, all that kind of stuff. So I'm with you on that. In fact, I gave this a lot of thought. Can you ever really be fearless? Unless you're a monk who meditates for like 6 hours a day and you've actually kind of purged yourself of the usual fearful thoughts. Well, that's not my journey. I do some meditation, quiet time, but I do not do it for 6 hours.
Oh.
Well, thanks. But the thing is, fearless, look at the word. Have some experiences of less fear. If I can just quiet down fear, the whole idea is fear may be on the committee, but it's not running the show. The CEO of your show is your true self, not the fear part. So what can we do about this? Well, when I think about it, I've been through some really rough times. As a child, I had a father that threw me into walls and spit on me and stuff like that. And then there were other times where I've been around or been pulled into violent situations or whatever. So the thing is, I'm talking about real times where I've been full of fear. And of course, that makes it attractive for me to get to a place of fearless. And I learned that it's not about raw positive self-talk. I can say, oh, I feel terrific. But there's a part of me that says, no, you don't. So that'd just be a lie. So what I learned is that I would like to be able to be strong. I would like to be able to take appropriate risks, but still in myself, in my true self, feel some safety. I figured this out as the word safe. S-A-F-E. Each letter stands for a method. S stands for set a system. A system is something you can rely on better than willpower. As the day goes on, if you are relying on willpower, I know this for a fact, I can eat spinach in the morning, but if it's 2 o'clock at night, I'm not in the mood to eat spinach.
Yeah, I'm more in the mood for cookies at that hour.
I'm with you. In fact, I have to declare to myself, I get today only 1 lemon Oreo cookie. But that's a system.
Oh, you are so much stronger than I am.
I hear you. People, when I mention this to people, they say, I have to limit myself to 1 row of Oreo cookies. But that's not a very effective system for many of us. The system for me is if I declare you get 1 lemon Oreo cookie, that's setting a system. It's a plan. The system is to actually announce it to people that I have to live up to.
How do you keep the system from derailing?
You prepare that a system will derail. For example, if I'm finishing up a book, I'm so excited. I have a new book. It's called The Writer's Solution. Crush Self-Doubt. By the way, our topic for today is the power of fearless versus self-doubt. So we're going to get into that too. But anyway, my new book, The Writer's Solution, Crush Self-Doubt, what I've learned is to be a very productive writer. I've got 46 books up on Amazon right now. I have to have systems. So how do you keep a system from derailing? You basically set up backup systems. If one is an engineer, you have fail-safes. You know certain things are going to happen. For example, for anyone who is wanting to eat in a very healthy way, if you find yourself having, instead of that 1 lemon Oreo cookie, sounds like a commercial for Oreo cookies. Anyway, but the thing is, instead of that 1 Oreo cookie, if I had 2, I have to have it in my mind that don't give up on the whole day. See, that is being aware of that people tend to fall back. They tend to have setbacks. So instead of just throwing up your hands and saying, wow, there goes the whole day, to actually say, well, that was more than I intended. Maybe I'll take a second walk today. So the way to not be derailed from my goal of eating in a way that supports staying fit, the way to do it is to have a backup system. So have multiple systems. So S was set a system. A is ask a question. Here's a tough thing. Some people get really afraid. I don't know if I want to do a book, let's say the first book, because what if it doesn't turn out and I don't sell many copies? Let's say I only sell 500 copies. No publisher is going to want to go with me and publish my second book or third book or whatever Because when they ask, how many copies did you sell? And if I say only a few hundred, they won't be interested. We need to ask a question. Is that true? Is that 100% true? The truth is, if a publisher believes that you have a new topic, new title that's going to sell, they'll go with you. Asking a question like, is that true? How do I know that's true? Has anyone ever succeeded at this? What could I do to make myself stretch and try something different and bring something fresh to the marketplace? Ask a question. F is for focus. I have a phrase that I often say, when you're in action, you're focused, and fear is a quiet voice in the background. Let me share that again. When you're in action, you're focused, and fear is a quiet voice in the background. I also want to stop for a moment here to talk about fear. Fear is not always a bad thing. Fear helps you stay on the mountain. For example, you got somebody, they have no fear, they don't take precautions while they're climbing the mountain. And so, and someone says, he felt no fear. Boom! He felt that landing. So the idea is that fear, properly utilized as a member of your committee, can help. I have another phrase. I say, when fear transforms into get ready energy and rehearsal, there is less fear. See, because the transformation happened. There is less fear. That's why when I work with my clients and we focus on word, strategy, and rehearsal, what happens is, I always say, if you're thinking about something, if you're concerned about something, grab 5 minutes of rehearsal. Call up a friend, talk to them, and say, hey, do you have a minute and a half? I just want to practice the beginning, the first minute of my speech. Or call your own answering system and practice into your own answering system the first 1 minute of your speech. Rehearsal will help you transform fear, and therefore you fear less.
I know a lot of people, even including myself, don't like to hear their own voice. How do you get past that if you're doing it on your machine?
I'm with you. Basically, I'm the same way. It's also the same thing with people and their noses, too. I've only met 2 people in my whole life that like their nose. That's it. And that's the reality of it, is that just be prepared that you just don't like your voice. Be prepared that I'm not going to like the sound of it. The reason why we like the sound of our voice is because when you're hearing your own voice, it's actually bouncing around inside your body, gives it more resonance. But when you hear it on a recording device, like for example, to myself, I sound like this. I sound like I have this really nice deep voice. But when I hear myself on a recorded device, I sound like this. Wow, that's a big difference. I'm not suggesting that suddenly you're going to go, whoopee, I like the sound of my voice. But if you don't expect to like it, you might go, it's okay.
Tom, I have another question. You know, we've been talking about all these great things about fear and whatnot. How does this really apply to introverts?
Well, big fear that I've had as an introvert, and you might be able to relate to this, is that I've always looked around and said, geez, all these other people are better at stuff. They like to get in front of the audience. They like to be at a party. They like to go to networking events. I always felt at a disadvantage. In fact, this leads us to the E of safe. And the E is empower your second thought. If my first thought that just shows up says, I have a disadvantage at this networking event because I'm an introvert, then my mind is to go back to A, ask a question. Is there a better thought I can have? Can I let that thought go? I look at thoughts like leaves on a stream of water. Just let it go past. Now, what people might do, and introverts might do, is they get that thought of, I am at a disadvantage, I'm not an extrovert. And they might take that leaf, that thought, and shove it right next to their eyes, and they can't see anything else. I say, let it go past and get to your second thought. And the second thought could be, hey, as an introvert, I have some natural introvert advantages, which include, I like to think things through. So that means I can rehearse, I can think things through, get my words together, so before the networking event, I can ask really good questions so that someone feels close. The other thing too is I'm good at talking with people one-on-one. Even in front of an audience, I can have a series of one-on-one conversations. I look at somebody to the right of me, and everybody in front of them and behind them think I'm looking at them. And I look at someone in the middle. So I look for friendly eyes, friendly faces to the right, to the middle, to the left. That's how I'm having one-on-one conversations. So that's the second thought. I'm good at having a series of one-on-one conversations while I'm addressing a group.
And this is when you're doing a speech, correct?
Right.
Not just mingling.
Yeah, mingling, it's one-on-one. But then that's the thing too. What is my second thought? My first thought might be, oh geez, I don't know if I have the energy for this get-together. But then I think, all I have to do is really listen well to people. So ask a couple of good questions, which I've rehearsed, which I've thought through because I'm an introvert. And then all I need to do is do mostly listening. If I'm thinking I'm doing mostly listening, it's not like trying to be in the moment and ad-lib. You see, extroverts often lean on their ability to ad-lib. Introverts don't have that usual thing, so we then become more methodical, which we're good at. We like to think things through. We're methodical. For example, I have a whole series of questions that I ask people so that they feel good and comfortable in my presence. If it gets completely quiet and we don't know what to say next, I'll say, hey, so what are you looking forward to? And they usually come back with forward to with what? Work or vacation? I say, oh, whatever you prefer to talk about. Maybe the upcoming vacation is really on your mind. If they start talking about their hobbies, I could have a closer rapport with someone than talking to them about work often.
Tom, what 3 things do you want us to remember out of all this?
Well, I really would like to say 4 things because the word is safe. So the first thing is to deal with fear and self-doubt. And I need to talk about self-doubt for a moment here. Think about self-doubt. What are you afraid of? You're probably afraid about the loss of approval. That you did something, put out a book into the world, or you gave a speech, or you had a conversation with someone, and you're afraid you're going to lose their approval. So that's where the self-doubt is coming from. Not having the capabilities to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And fear is all wrapped into it. So how can you be fearless? We've got 4 different methods, all built around the word safe. These are the 4 things I want people to remember. Set a system. Don't rely on willpower. Don't rely on motivation. Don't rely on waiting for inspiration. Have a system. I'm not in the mood to write. I have a system. Part of the system is I know that I'm going to make a log entry about my progress. I call it my progress log. So even if I just speak into my dictating app and I just record 30 words, and my target is 2,000 words for that day, 30 words, only 970 more words to go, which is better than having done nothing. And I always say the phrase, better than zero. Set a system. Next, A is for ask a question. If you have some self-doubt comment just pop up in your thoughts, say, is that true? How do I know that's true? Is it possible that someone in the history of the world has moved on and got beyond that limiting belief, that limiting thought? Ask a question. F is for focus. And then E is for empower your second thought. Because often the first thought, in many of us, because it's actually, you have to blame the ancestors for this, because it was all their fault. Yes, exactly, because the ones who lived were the ones who had negative thinking. Oh, look, that's a saber-toothed tiger. I'm getting out of here. Those are the ones who lived, the ones who said, hello, kitty. Arr. Those are the ones who didn't live and did not pass their genes down. So of course, and science bears this out, and research bears this out, is that if you want to focus on and have a positive thought, a positive experience in your long-term memory, you have to focus on it for 10 to 20 seconds. I wrote a book called 10 Seconds to Wealth. And part of that book was talking about that you need to focus on something positive for 10 to 20 seconds. If I cut myself shaving, boom, right into the long-term memory. Ow. But if I have something great, like a couple of people already have given me some wonderful endorsements for my new book, The Writer's Solution, Crush Yourself-Doubt, I have to pay attention that those reviews on Amazon, I have to look at them for 10 to 20 seconds for them to go into my long-term memory. So that instead of letting some self-doubt thought run the show, I have to get to the second thought. And in order to access the second thought, I have to be skillful with my long-term memory. So these are the thoughts that I'd like to emphasize. Remember, the word is safe. Set a system, ask a question, focus, empower your second thought. So now I'm curious, Johanna, what are you going to keep with you from this conversation?
I really like the idea of thoughts on a stream being leaves.
Ah, yes. And what's nice about that is it's an image, which might make it more visceral. You might be able to hold on to it. Letting the thoughts that do not empower you float by. Well, thank you for that, Johanna.
And thank you, Tom.
Oh, I want to add one more detail about self-doubt and rehearsal. October 2018, I'm doing a workshop called Convince Investors to Fund You. Master the 3 critical factors of pitch, network, and follow-up. And the idea here is that a lot of self-doubt can come up because people are doing things that they've never done before. You have engineers who now have to be able to get investors, so they need to be able to present. And the idea to take care of self-doubt and to become fearless, to have less fear, rehearsal is what it's all about. We'd like to share that we have an online class called the Introverts Formula to Get Clients. The next class, with some space still available, is in January 2019. So if you want to pre-enroll, you can go to getthebigyes.com and click on the contact and send us a message. Once again, that's getthebigyes.com. We're glad that you heard this broadcast, and we invite you to
Click to subscribe.
and then you'll be supporting me and Johanna and our message.
And so now remember,
Introverts can show their best self with strategy.
I'm Johanna McLeod.
I'm Tom Marcoux.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.